Okay, we'll make a start. Thank you very much for coming to this second session of this afternoon. And I'd like to introduce you to Julie Adams, who is, as well as Chair of the Digital Capabilities Group, is an academic skills tutor in digital capabilities at Staffordshire University. Last year she led on the Digital U project at Staff and is currently part of the team working on staff and student digital capabilities within the Digital Learning Project. And today she's giving a presentation on digital diagnostic, assessing staff digital capability. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Reshna. Okay, so we're going to have a variety of activities. I'm going to talk for a little while, tell you a bit about what we've been doing, how things are working at Staffordshire under our kind of transformation project. Then you'll have a chance to have a go at the tool that we've set up for staff to do. So I've done a version for you to have a go at today. Bit of discussion, and then I'm going to talk to you about another couple of tools that you might be interested in. You may not have heard of both of them, certainly. So I don't know how many people know much about Staffordshire. We're in the North Midlands. Main campus is in Stoke-on-Trent. And at the moment, we're undergoing a huge kind of transformation. So our current strapline is we are the connected university. So that means a couple of different things to us. One, it does mean the digital side, but also we're very keen about being connected into the local community. So we do a lot of work within the community in Staffordshire, in North Staffordshire, and kind of Stoke-on-Trent in particular. So that whole kind of connected into our community is a key thing for us. Very much like Solent, we are a new university. We have been there since '92, but we're not a research-heavy university. We are very much teaching-focused, and we have a lot of students from kind of a wider participation background. So we are that type of university. At the moment, we've had huge change. Okay? It's been an exciting journey, our transformation project has, but it has been all change, and is all change. And it is an interesting, slightly bumpy journey that we're going on, quite interesting. And this is just an example on the next slide of some of the things that have changed in the last year when it started Staffordshire. I couldn't put them all on, okay, there's even more things than that. But we've had a new Vice-Chancellor as of April last year. Some of our changes have already taken place by then. We had a new executive team, so apart from one person, I think we've had 6 new people at executive level across the university. We've had some massive campus redevelopments. We closed our Stafford campus for everything apart from some of the health courses in September last year. So a lot of the students, big in the computing and engineering and technology courses, moved to the Stoke-on-Trent campus. That meant a whole new building and a vast change in some of the learning spaces. So we had some new classrooms built with some quite interesting technology into those. We've more recently had previously we had 4 faculties with 3 schools underneath them. We now have 6 new academic schools with some quite interesting restructures within those. So that's been a big change. Staff having to get used to whole new structures, having to get used to whole new management structures and things like that. We've had many of our university services being restructured as well, and one of the most significant was the change of what was information services, kind of previously IT and library were joined together, are now split into digital services, which is IT focused, and the library, and my team has been moved into the library as part of that. Like many places, we've introduced Office 365 and OneDrive, but we've had probably an even bigger drive towards the cloud than most places. We are now, I believe, well, we certainly were the only UK university who was a Microsoft Beacon university. So we put all our stuff into the cloud. We're going to redevelop a new data centre. Instead of that, because it became so complicated, we made the decision to actually move everything to the cloud. So every system that can go to the cloud is now in the cloud. And so a few sort of local specialised things that are not. But that's been a big change for us and for some of the staffing and for the staff in IT. So staff are getting used to using Office 365, encouraging the move to OneDrive. And we've had a new strategic plan and some supporting strategies that go along with that. And digital is focused to all of those. So the strapline, again, is kind of connecting university, but also digital first. So digital first is the key thing that everyone wants to move towards. Some of the changes that we're having as part of this new strategic plan is this digital learning project. And I'm going to talk to you in a bit more detail about some of the things that have been taking part within that. So there's 5 key strands to this overall digital learning project. There's the looking at the learning spaces, so actually putting new things in place for that. And at the moment, we've actually got the GISC digital classroom on tour. It's been around the UK to a few different places, and it's currently at staff for I think another week. So people may have that coming to their area, or you may have seen that. So that's an example for us as to what you can do with some new learning spaces, and we've been doing quite a few activities the last month while we have that digital classroom. I guess I said earlier, we have got a whole new building as well, where we put in some quite interesting new learning spaces, some technology, and the staff are going to try and use in their teaching. The second strand looks at tools and technology, so that's kind of identifying 3 kind of core levels of technologies and tools that staff need to use. So the things that everyone needs to know, so obviously it will include things like Office and the BLE, but also a few more sort of systems that everyone needs to know about, and then kind of moving out to the ones that we support to some extent to those that, okay, you can try these things, but you basically, you know, on your own, we don't officially support those technologies. So a whole range of things that staff are being made aware of. Third strand is the staff digital capabilities, and that's what I'm going to talk a bit more about that one. The next one, the student digital capabilities, hasn't really taken off as much this year as we hoped it might have done. So the aim now is to begin to look at that more for September, so we're going to begin to identify what we want students to do. We did take part in the GISC student tracker things, a pilot for a little while, but I'm not sure what kind of data we've had out of that project yet. And finally, like many places, we're looking at the learning analytics. So the staff digital capabilities, several areas within that we've been looking at. One is we are beginning to get some student champions. So this one kind of overlaps between the staff and student capabilities, and they are beginning to work with staff. In particular, they're working with staff on the introduction of Surface Pro. So I see people have got those around today, but we have a huge investment we've made in Surface Pros that most academic staff are going to get one of those to use for learning and teaching. And some of the student champions are going to be working with them to try and make them make best use of that. But to look in a bit more detail about what we're actually saying this project's going to do for staff, the idea really is to try and help staff to have more innovative learning, to basically to encourage them to work with students, to think of different ways of doing assessments, to involve students in the curriculum in a whole range of ways. So we're looking to create this development programme for staff. And the key thing is it's not just for academic staff. They are one of the key focuses, but we want to make sure that there's an aspect of this that addresses every staff at every level. Professional support staff, admin staff, management staff, and all parts of staff are going to be involved in the project. So the one that was actually looking at the self-assessment was one of the things that we began to think about that we wanted to do to make sure we knew where staff were and where they needed to move to. And there was various things we looked at. So we just said we're going to look at the agreed self-assessment tool. Getting that agreed self-assessment tool was quite interesting. We did begin to look at using the GISC discovery tool. Has anybody been using the GISC tool? Has anyone used the GISC tool? Yeah. Initially, we sort of saw this last July when people from GISC came to our Learning and Teaching conference, and we saw one of the early versions of that. We did have quite a debate kind of towards the back end of last year as to whether we were actually going to use that tool as it became released for the way we wanted to assess staff capabilities. At that time, we decided that wasn't the way that we wanted to go. We felt that because we're trying to address all staff and make something available to all staff to be able to do, some of our staff would have found that just too much. It just wasn't a thing that they were going to be able to relate to at that particular time. So we had some debates about what we're going to do. We're going to kind of create our own sort of questionnaire, our own kind of self-assessment, so how we were going to go about that. So we did decide at the end, yeah, we would do something that tried to address some of those kind of core tools and technologies that they needed to know about. So I've been involved in a project, as Gretchen mentioned last year, that we called Digital U. That was looking at staff capabilities across all areas of staff. And it was very much based on the initial parts of the GISC kind of framework. So there were various areas within that we looked at. And we kind of created what we called at the time these kind of digital values. And they're kind of listed underneath there. Each of those values would kind of came under those kind of key categories there. We've now changed it to being digital behaviours because as part of our strategy for the university, there are kind of 3 or 4 key university values. So the term values was becoming a little bit confused within that higher level strategy. So we came up with this term kind of digital behaviours. And they kind of fall into those kind of categories you can see at the bottom. Now, those of you who are familiar with the JISC framework will know that there's quite a lot of similarity with what we created with what they had in that framework. We didn't want to use it exactly step by step, but we took elements from that. So to flesh those kind of behaviours out in a little bit more detail, hopefully you can read this reasonably well. And this kind of lists what those areas are. So looking at communicating effectively in a whole variety of media and forms, using technology confidently, handling data, including within that some of the kind of data protection and copyright aspects, creating digital artifacts, objects, so creating things in that kind of way, being able to actually use technology and using digital aspects to learn yourself, so develop yourself in that kind of way. Digital ambassador was one we kind of struggled with the terminology for that for a while. That's kind of really sort of, it's that whole identity aspect, so kind of being an ambassador to others as to what is, you know, what good digital behaviour is. And then kind of finally we kind of tagged on to the end the kind of room technologies aspect, and that was making sure that people could make use of these learning spaces. Not just academic staff, but what we wanted is anybody could go into one of the rooms where they might have a podium, something like this, and they knew they could kind of, you know, turn up confidently, have a presentation, run something on a PowerPoint, or demonstrate something on the web or things like that. So those are the key areas that we knew we wanted to include in whatever tool it was that we created. So we decided just to go with what we got. No, we did not have any new fancy technology. So what we went for was an online survey, in inverted commas for the word survey, using Qualtrics. So we had the Qualtrics online survey software. Does anybody else have Qualtrics? Are you aware of what Qualtrics is? Yeah, okay, so it's a good, powerful tool. So we went with a survey in Qualtrics that was anonymous. It had various questions, and it asked staff to identify which grouping that they were in. So they could say they were academic staff, they were management staff, either academic managers or service managers, professional support staff, and again that was broken down into admin, technical support or learning support. So people identified what they were. And those categories allowed us to have slightly different questions or even examples of what we meant by some of the questions for that particular staff grouping. The questions were what my colleague who worked on this called pointy. So this is basically saying, I can do this, I do that. So it wasn't so much I like to do this or I feel I want to do that. It was very much, you know, suppose we could. We made it, I do this, I can do that. So they could be very, very precise about what they did. But then we'll have to rate their confidence level about that. So it's key either, well, I'm not really sure about that. I can do it with some help. Yes, I'm competent. Or they felt they could help others. Either they do help others or they felt they had the confidence in that area in order to help others. So they went through and answered all these various questions. And at the end, we used a kind of scoring functionality within inside Qualtrics to give people an overall score. So we actually kept the questions at 20 questions, okay, with a maximum of 5 scores per question to make the maths nice and easy. So we'd actually give people a total in the end out of 100. So when we'd done that, we had a beta version of the questionnaire, which we ran through what we called our kind of critical friends, who were part of the Digital U community. These people were ones who last year had volunteered to work with us to develop the programme we ran last year of workshops to give us an idea of what their needs were in the various areas. So they kind of gave us some feedback, and we did tweak some of the questionnaires, some of the questions from that, just to tighten the wording and make it a little bit clearer as to what we actually meant. So we had the final version ready by earlier this year, and then in the end we went for a soft launch. We were hopefully going to have an email sent out by one of the Pro-Vice Chancellors to actually promote it, but that kind of didn't happen for various reasons. So okay, in March we thought, okay, let's put an advert on the staff intranet and on the front page of Blackboard. And that's literally all we did initially. And then we had people sort of taking part quite quickly. And at the moment we're having what we're calling our DigiMonth. So this kind of, so while we're having the JISC digital classroom touring around, we've been doing a whole range of activities to try and get staff to think a bit more digitally and as part of that we've been promoting the diagnostic in a little bit more detail. As of last Friday, I think we had about 198 people who had taken part. So we're quite pleased with the response rate so far. So when they've actually done the survey, so they're given a score, and then within that there's a link back to a guide that we created. So within our library we have the LibGuide software to use for a lot of the library pages. It makes it quite nice and easy for us to set up sort of simple guides for that. So this is one of the guides that I set up in order to help give some feedback. So we have the panel on the side that gives them the bit of background about it and a link to the survey, and then using their results section we'll keep updating as we go along, and that's got tabs for each particular topic, and it gives them some ideas of the kind of thing they might need to do. They've got a link into the intranet to book onto some of the workshops that we put together. There's a link to tell us if we're not covering what they want, and again we've got some links down the bottom to resources. So those might cover things that we've done ourselves. They may cover different online guides, and where appropriate we have links into some of the lynda.com software, including down to video level, using the kind of nice sort of sharing links that they give you within Lynda now, so we can actually just go into that video, log on with your username, and then to get straight into the material. We're beginning to use some of the Microsoft Imagine Academy work as well, so we're going to see if we can start to link some of those things in. So we're trying to point people to very precise things that will help them improve in the areas that have been assessed by the diagnostic tool. So what we're going to start doing is, within the getting the feedback, we'll begin to try and identify those areas where we feel most help is needed, so where the confidence is lowest, and we have had some areas that come out quite clearly on the results so far. So we've had a few areas where people really aren't particularly confident, some where they are very confident, but some where they're not so confident. We're going to start to target some of the training at particular schools and services. So a couple of these schools have been working with myself and some of the colleagues in the Technology Enhanced Learning team who also worked on this, to identify what we might want to do with their staff in their particular area. I'm going to try and kind of get them to put some workshops on for them over the summer when they're having their development days and things like that. Certainly some of those have also created some checklists. There's one of the schools who have a checklist based on what we've done so far that they're going to use with their staff. And I think hopefully we're trying to get people to be encouraged as part of their performance reviews to have a kind of digital objective. So that will be one of the things that we're aiming to, that everyone will have at least one objective that's kind of tied into the kind of improving their digital capabilities. Hopefully staff will repeat the diagnostic as they go along, so try and get an idea, and hopefully we'll then begin to see the scores increasing. We've had scores ranging from kind of 25 out of 100 up to people who say they are 100. Suspect that might be a little bit of over-assessment. We were talking in the session earlier about people kind of over-assessing how well they do. Then we did have a huge number of people from our computing school completing the diagnostic, so maybe that might have been slightly swayed as well. So we can break things down by the school that people are in. So we ask people to say which school they're in, which service are saying, which staff grouping, and we can do some analysis inside Qualtrics itself. So we have some automatic reports set up to assess anyone who has a score above 1, because some people kind of go through it and don't actually answer any questions, so they get a kind of a 0 score, which was skewing the results. So once we kind of spotted that, the reports had to kind of be filtered in a slightly different way. So we have some automatic reports set up. We can look at, say, the staff grouping and their scores above 1. And then for the rest of the analysis, I've been exporting the data into Excel and doing a few pivot tables just to kind of pick out some of the groupings and things like that. So we'll do a lot more analysis over the summer of the results, but so far we've got some quite interesting patterns and definitely have identified some areas where we might need to do a little bit more work. So just go through and show you a little bit what it looks like, and I've then set a link up for you to have a version of this to have a quick go at. So that'll probably take about 5 minutes at the most to have a go at doing this actual survey. So when they first go in, you'll see the screen across on the left-hand side with a bit of introduction about it. This is basically what it looks like as you go through each one. So the top, the link in blue, does take them through to the page that was on the digital use site to go a little bit more about what we actually meant in this context by digital communication. So some of the kind of fairly obvious kind of areas, so I'll ask them things like, you know, I use folders in my email, yeah, I use OneDrive and Office 365. We've got some information there about using professional networks such as Twitter and sort of social media. Trying to actually get people to use things more than email, and a question at the bottom, hopefully you can just about read that one, asking about using Skype for business or Collaborate as a way of doing web conferencing. The next categories are handling information, go through about asking about privacy settings in social media. The next one asks about including the source or reference. That is the one where we've had the biggest block of people who say they don't know or they don't think it's relevant. Okay? So I'm sure that will interest Jane, who's sitting across there, to do a digital copyright, but people were not in the least bit interested or didn't think it was relevant to them to actually include the kind of copyright link. So that had a really, really big red. And on our graphs, red is the bit where more action is needed, you know, where people say that they don't know. And that was one where it definitely has scored the highest so far about people needing more development. The next question asks them about using data. So we include some examples there. The examples we give on some of these vary depending on which staffing group that you're in. So academic staff and admin staff will see slightly different examples. So we're asking them things about Cohar is our library system, I've got our finance system, eVision is for some student records, and Resource Link is the HR system. Asking about sharing spreadsheets with colleagues, so then trying to unpick them actually using things like OneDrive in a bit more detail to actually do some collaboration. Actually, some people haven't set up and managed a file system. Okay, some people who say no, actually, I've got, you know, I'm not very good at doing file management, which is quite interesting. And another one we've definitely picked things up is people don't think they need to use heading styles in Word very much, or certainly don't use heading styles in Word very much, which is again not a particular surprise, I'm sure, to some of you. Iris is our staff intranet, so is where we have all the information about the Digital U project and where they go to actually book on any of our workshops. So that again has been an area where we've picked up. It's not the easiest system to use. So we're going to go next. We're going to get some feedback over the summer on what we've done so far. Maybe we're going to tweak these, you know, the questions and release a new version if necessary. So I've already mentioned we're kind of working with services to create some localised checklists. And then working with HR to try and make it a little bit more integrated into the kind of performance review process. And as we go along, develop more training and resources. So that's kind of what we've done so far. So hopefully now you can all have a little go at doing this. So I've created a separate version of the survey for you. And a nice customised bit.ly link, one of those horrible ones that sort of everyone gets mad at, is the link uppercase and lowercase. So bit.ly/spotlight3 should take you through to a version of the diagnostic that is done just for this session. So I've tweaked the wording a little bit, but hopefully it'll be fairly straightforward. So have a quick go, and then when you've done that, we'll have a little bit of a quick discussion on what you think of it. So it should take you about 3 or 4 minutes to have a go and do that. So everyone got that link up? Yeah, okay, I'll just move on to the... So we'll start thinking about that. So there's a Padlet I've set up as well. So the Padlet is padlet.com/JF-Adams/digital diagnostic, all one word. So if you want to make any comments on there, you can. We'll have a quick discussion about what you think of it when you just all had a chance to complete the diagnostic. Okay, are people finished or nearly finished? Yeah. Okay. Would anybody like to give me any kind of feedback on that so far? I have a microphone to bring to you if you want to make any kind of general comments so you can get picked up by the recording. Anybody want to make any comments? Do you think it would be effective to use in your institution? General, yeah? Okay, let's pass this to... Oh, you think you'll hand your hand up first, yeah?
I very much liked it. I especially like the scale.
Yeah.
It's a minor point, but a really important one because it's a scale that is more graspable than on a scale of 1 to 5, agree, disagree, you know.
Yeah.
My problem is there's always the same thing, and I'm sure, you know, that every single attempt would draw the same anxiety from me, is that is it useful to get advice at that level that is that generic to the individual,
yeah,
that effectively points everyone to the same generic set of help and support resources for the same topic? But the problem is, well, if you did anything more specific, you'd be taking a huge amount of time and effort to gather the information, and you might as well probably just interview them.
Yeah, and I think what we thought this would kind of do for us, at least initially, is to get that kind of baseline picture to some extent as to where we were in various staff groupings and in some of the, you know, the faculties and schools and services, and that might then allow us to begin to look in a bit more detail as to how we might want to take that. But this gives us a starting point. I mean, major or downward, this is going to give us a starting point. We haven't got anything, so this seemed to us to be a better tool than some of the more complex GISC one that we felt anyway.
The only comment I had, I felt it was a bit long.
Okay.
Quite a lot of questions there, and a lot of folk will start doing it and
Yeah.
they'll get halfway through and go, I'm fed up doing that now, and then they'll give up. So I don't know if you could just sort of minimise the questions, and then, or maybe do a couple of surveys, one get some information and do another one and get a second lot of information.
Yeah, and I think we went with the categories that we had because they were, you know, those kind of fitted in with those kind of values that we'd identified, and we wanted to make sure we had something on all of them. You will see there was more in some categories than others because we did actually struggle quite a lot. One we wanted to put in there, we didn't kind of get in, was one that came back, some feedback from some of these schools was, I think that we have a real problem with still, is getting people to book meetings properly through Outlook. So we were trying to you know, so we kind of fit that one in there. But then what do we miss out? So yeah, we are aware that we might want to add a few more topics into that. And maybe miss a few questions out, but again, it's going to be part of the feedback. So any kind of comments you want to make after this, obviously that the Padlet link is still there. So thank you for that. Okay, I just thought I would just turn that off. So I'll move on. I'm going to show you another tool note which you may or you may not have seen, but I do quite like it. I'm going to just briefly mention the GISC tool. I assume everybody has heard of the GISC, the discovery tool that's been talked about for quite a while. It was taking quite a long time for them to get where we wanted them to get with it, so we didn't use that. So it was also a bit too complex for us. Has anyone heard about the All Aboard project? It's an Irish one. Yeah. Okay. If you haven't, I'm going to go through that in a bit of detail because I think it's quite an interesting one to have a look at a different approach. Has everybody seen the GISC tool? Have you all used the GISC tool? Okay, so very, very briefly for those people who haven't, or just as a reminder really, GISC are still looking at a beta version of their discovery tool. It has changed quite a lot since we last saw it at Stats last July, and there's a link to it there. Okay, I kind of created you a nice short bit.ly link again because that is absolutely long and massive. You can certainly easily Google it, but if you want a quite short link, there was one to it there. If you think ours is quite long, then GISC's is even longer because there are 13 categories that they assess, and there are a large number of questions in each one. At the end of it, theirs is a little bit more personalised, as in you get the kind of little profile under all those things, and I hope those are in the right order. I'm not quite sure what colour. I did do the thing to get this one, but I just kind of put anything in there, so I kind of probably really messed their results up because I just wanted to get a little picture to put on my slide. So if they find a really weird result in there, it's probably me playing around. But that's the kind of thing that you get at the end of it. And you do get quite a lot of feedback on there, but what again was an issue for us with the GIST tools, and we couldn't actually do that customizing of those feedback resources and actually put them to what we wanted to put to them within our things. So until they get their tools so you can actually have direct editable links into your own content, it wasn't going to meet our particular needs. But the other one I was just going to talk a bit about was this one called All Aboard that came well, an Irish one. So did some people say they've seen this one before? Yeah, okay. James nodding vigorously. But it is really, I quite like this. It's a similar principle to some of the one that the GISC one uses, rather than being the very precise questions that we ask, but it's quite a lot shorter. It lists there the actual reasons that they kind of developed it, and at the end of this presentation I've got some slides that link you to the actual resources to sort of see the kind of sort of strategy papers that they aimed at. Theirs is aimed at students and all staff groups. Ours is not currently aimed at students. We may look to do a version of it for students later. We haven't decided yet. But this one is aimed at student and staff groups. The address is allaboard.he.ie if you want to have a look at the web pages. So I've got some screenshots of what the actual survey looks like. Theirs is interesting. I think theirs has been created in Storyline, as far as I can tell, by actually looking at it when you go into it. And that assesses what they call digital confidence. So it's quite interesting, I think, the different terminology that kind of gets used in some of these things. I'm sure we're going to have a huge debate about whether we want to use capability, confidence, fluency, literacies, skills, whatever we might want to actually call it. So I think ours does assess confidence in the web, and so we ask some people how confident they are in sort of feeling certain things. So again, that's kind of a whole debate as to whether people actually, talk about this confidence level. The Metro map of resources that comes at the end of this resource is also quite nice. So again, you have your kind of personal profile, and you can see the categories are communicate and collaborate, create and innovate, find and use, identity and well-being, teach and learn, tools and technology. So again, there are similar kind of categories that are used within the GISC framework. So when you go into the tool, okay, I say it's done in Storyline. I think it should work on all devices. I've actually tried it on all mobile devices. Very nice little graphics. So it kind of asks about the staff groupings or the students. It asks you to look at kind of how, so it gives you a bit of an idea of what actually is meant by those kind of four categories that they use. And that was just a screenshot to show you as an example. So each one you go into, okay, each time you click on one of those buttons that sort of says unfamiliar or competent, it gives you a little pop-up, and then you read that description, and if you feel it's what you want to answer, you can just tick on the yes, this sounds like me button. So that was an example there of what that's actually like as far as the category find and use is concerned. I've not done the pop-ups for all of these. I just thought I would do one for each of the actual topics. So the next topic was looking at creating and innovating, identity and well-being, and teaching or learning. And then the next three are teaching, training or support. So if you say that you're actually involved in some teaching, then you have to ask the question about that. Tools and technology, and then communicating and collaborating is the next category there. And then at the end, we've done all those questions. It creates you a little profile in that kind of way. So again, you kind of little sort of segments, a bit kind of like kind of trivial pursuit type of segments, kind of in there, giving you the view as to what you are. And obviously, the further out it comes, the higher level of your confidence in that particular area. And then the area that they actually link to actually help you to improve is a little kind of Metro map. So that's the kind of the Metro map that I assume is kind of, is there a Metro in Dublin? I think there must be. I think it must be kind of based on that. So the idea is each of the lines is those various areas, and then the stops along the way I've got various things within them. So each of those on the website, they're all kind of clickable, and they'll take you through to some information and resources. The nice thing, this is all Creative Commons licensed material as well, so you can actually reuse it. How easily you'd find it to take whether you could get the storyline files and actually be able to edit those, I'm not quite sure. But the kind of support resources available, I say, under a Creative Commons license. So I do quite like this as one method of actually looking at how to assess staff capabilities. So I thought now, how to go at our tool. So if you haven't seen the JISC one, have a go at that. So I thought I'd give you another 5 minutes or so to have a quick look at those tools online. Maybe start with the All Aboard one if you haven't seen it before, and then maybe depending on how time goes, have a look at the JISC one. Then we'll have a bit of a discussion about how you think those various tools work and what might be the advantages of the different approaches. Okay, so there's the links for you. Have a little play with those, either one or both of the actual tools. Yeah. Oh yes, yeah. Sorry, if you get to the main, yeah, if you get to the main site for the All Aboard one, if you click the little icon that looks like, let me go back a few slides. Yeah, if you get to the main web page for the All Aboard site, if you click on that icon, on that graphic, it will take you to it. It probably is a slight design flaw in there, since I couldn't actually find a link to it unless you clicked on that. So maybe that's a thing that they need to improve. Okay, if once you've finished, I know I can see some people have finished it, some are beginning to have some discussions. If once you have finished, if you want to start having it or think about a couple of questions I could pose there about how effective you might find either the JISC or that all aboards tool in your institution. And again, that kind of second question I've been thinking out about, is a single solution desirable? So if you have finished those two surveys, have a quick discussion with those sitting around you, just for a couple of minutes. Add your ideas to the Padlet. They will have some general feedback for the last few minutes of the session, if that's okay. So if you want to move any nearer to one another, if you're thinking a bit for the pub, you want to have be able to talk to those sitting around you. A few minutes of that, and then we'll have the last 10 minutes just having some general feedback. Okay. Yeah, I know some people are going to be working through them, so I can pick them as a bits of, it is hugely long. Yeah, again, it's one of those things, isn't it? You're going to get some different sort of feedback and things from people, so. There's a nice murmur of discussions. I hate it when it gets really quiet. Yeah, if you. Yeah, I think it is. I think if you click on if you get as far as the map, you can click on them.
So this tells me that I need to do a bit more work on the purple line.
Yeah.
I can find the.
You can if you get to the map itself, you can click on the individual stations on the map, and it'll take you through to some things as well. Yeah.
Maybe.
I think some of those are. I think some of them are. I think these might be the clickable ones. I'm not sure what every single thing is.
I found it easier to use the stations list.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
on the map.
That looks quite nice, but again, it might be a bit more of a gimmick look, maybe. I'm not sure.
I mean, I'm glad they have all that money to spend on design. I wish we.
Yeah, I know. Interesting, isn't it? As to.
We'd end up with a bog standard opinion survey.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Everyone okay? You right? Yeah. Have you seen it before? Have you tried to try the tools out? Do you find them interesting?
Look at some of them. I've actually been working with Howard Whiteley in the team on the Imagine Camping programme.
Oh right, yeah, all right. So yes, so you're involved with some of our stuff. Yeah.
Kevin State, the guys are so familiar, so it's going fantastically well. From
Yeah,
so
it is. Yeah, it is. Yeah, busy and lots of change, but yes, it is going well.
Interesting, they're based on the European DigiCap framework, which is massive. Have you seen that?
No, haven't.
The presents, which I'm just nicking for tomorrow. Where is it? There, on the last screen.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
adapted from Digicom, the
okay.
European Digital Competence Framework, which
Right.
if you look at the European Digital Framework, that guy would have a fit. You know, when you said yours is quite big, I thought you need to see that one.
Well, the JISC one's huge as well.
But and I thought you did fill in the survey, did it? Because the problem is if you don't do the big stuff, you don't get the detail.
Yeah.
And if you do it quite
it is hard to get the right balance. It is hard, you know. And this is going to give us a little snapshot. And we may not keep on with it, but it's going to give us what we want to start with, you know, and just engaging people and starting to think about what, you know, about what we're doing. We're going to get HR involved. We're going to start talking a little bit, but not fully yet. But yeah, definitely want to try and get it, as I say, everyone having a digital competence, you know, digital kind of capability objective is part of their appraisals. But they're looking to change some of the appraisal system as well, I think. So it's kind of getting in there at the right time.
How have you found? Do you know what that guy was doing in the previous presentation? Where he was talking about overrating consultants' comments.
Yeah.
And then there's differences between genuine nationality. But how have you checked?
We're having.
Which is fine.
Yeah. One thing that we did interestingly in our team a year or two ago was we kind of did a sort of self-assessment of more general skills. So you did your own self-assessment, and then you got someone in your team or a couple of your colleagues to assess how they thought you were, and that was quite interesting.
That'd be quite interesting.
That wasn't just digital, so that was more general, some of the more general stuff as well. But that was because very often people would rate you and say, okay, you come and do this then. Yeah, and that kind of works a little bit. Yeah, it does. Because
I'm not that good.
it's okay. You go and do this session. You go and stand up and talk about it.
Why didn't you tie this in with budget? Because you can do lots of budget.
Yeah, the budget stuff kind of went in abeyance for a while, but that's one of the next phases. So look at budgeting again.
Competency-based education as well. That's
Yeah.
separate conversation dawned on me.
Yeah.
Tied in with badges and rubrics.
Yeah. So no, we might look at the budget because we got quite a way down the budget, and it all kind of went a little bit, pear-shaped with other things changing along the way and stuff. Yeah.
They did like digital.
Yeah.
With badges, rubrics, and all competency.
Yeah. Right. I better watch my time anyway. Yeah, it is. Okay. Okay, I don't like to break up interesting discussions. I can hear lots of discussions going on, but maybe we can have a bit of feedback from some people. Any kind of comments that you'd like to make? Feedback you want to give us on those other two tools, or more generally on the desirability and ease of having a solution to staff capabilities. So, anyone want to make a comment? I've got the microphone if anyone wants to. So I know the lady over here was going to make a comment a bit early, so I'll come to you first.
I was just curious, since you've been running this program, how has the uptake been? Have individuals been seeking out training? Have they been engaging with training that have matched kind of their gaps in terms of their digital confidence? Yeah.
I'm not sure we actually have enough data on that at the moment, to be honest, because we've been running it sort of on a sort of soft launch since February and kind of into March, so we've only got a couple of months of data. I think we had, say as of last Friday when I checked the responses, we'd had 198 people complete it, which we didn't think was too bad for having had a really, really sort of soft launch. Some areas have got very few staff having done it. So there's a large number in I think the biggest school who'd completed it were computing. The largest staff area who'd completed it was the area that we kind of call student academic services, which was people who work in things like student records, administration, and that kind of area. And they had a lot of staff who had completed it as well. So we began to do some more analysis over the summer, but perhaps kind of pick that kind of stuff up. Yeah.
And have they been engaged with doing the training that would then help to get through?
Again, we've not done the analysis on that. So we have had some take up on some of the sessions. I think the ones I've been running recently, I've had most take up on were some Excel ones. We had one about writing for the web and kind of digital identity, and that was a full session. So whether there's any correlation, it's hard to say. But we've had some with a lot of people on, but some again with not so many people on.
Sorry, it's a similar question. I'm very shouty.
Okay.
It's a similar question, Julie. How will you know what the effect of this is? Is there built-in some way of working out? 350 people did it, and this was the effect. And of those, because they did it, 200 did this or whatever. Or is there some way to know what the effect was?
Not necessarily. Perhaps I haven't kind of worked that amount of detail out yet. We hope that some of this stuff will be done in kind of appraisals and staff working with their managers. So hopefully, if people do this, we would hope that they would go to their one-to-ones and their appraisals with their manager and say, here's my results, or this is the kind of things. We will share with some of the managers in a certain area that, because we don't know who, it's anonymous, we don't know who's committed, but we might know that, okay, a lot of staff in the School of Computing might need development in this, or people under education might need that, or financial services might need development in that. So in that kind of way, we can kind of perhaps pick up where people have scored themselves lower, but we can't necessarily look at the impact straight away. We can tell which staff areas attend the workshops that we put on, but we can't really do that kind of detailed analysis. Well, hopefully that might be more at the local level. But we're not sure. We haven't kind of really worked out how we're going to measure the impact yet. That I know is a whole challenge on the area.
Not measuring the impact might be, might have some positives. But I mean, it strikes me that one easy thing we do is in our post learning and experience evaluation form, people say, what made you decide to come here? I saw a poster, I got an email, I did your online diagnostic.
Yeah, we could do that. That might be a good idea, yeah. We haven't done that yet, but yes, we certainly could do that. Yeah. Okay, so I think there's a hand over here first, and I'll come back to you that side afterwards.
Do you have any issues where the people who might require the most help don't fill in the questionnaire? Do you work, for example, with management in saying, can you sort of encourage staff who you feel may be struggling with some of these areas to complete this so we can assess them and assure them it is confidential, it is anonymous? Because I'm thinking perhaps the people who are most sort of digitally confident might be the ones who complete it.
Yes, I think something you're right. I'll say the school that had most people doing it has been our competing school. So that the bar of completion on that is like way out here compared to some of the other schools. So I think you're right. But one thing we're hopefully going to do is to work with some of the managers to try and encourage people as part of their annual appraisals to do the tool. So we can suggest that they do that. But obviously we can't make them, but we would like to encourage people to start doing it. So it's quite early days yet, so when it becomes more sort of mainstreamed in a way, hopefully the take-up will be a bit higher as well.
Thanks. We have an issue with survey fatigue, particularly in certain areas of staff within our organisation. How do you encourage people to actually complete it in the first place to get to engage with that? Okay.
Well, as far as staff are concerned, we've not had many staff surveys for quite a while. So for us, we haven't got that issue with staff. Certainly with students, where we probably would have. And then when we try and run any student surveys, we're always told we can't hit that main survey season. So kind of between about January and April, we're not allowed to do any other surveys other than the National Student Survey and the one that we call the Student Viewfinder, which is our version of the National Student Survey for our first and second years. So no other student surveys run during that period, but we have very few staff surveys. So for us, it's not been an issue because we don't really survey staff, or we haven't done for quite a long time. Was there somebody else along here? Yeah.
I really like the idea of the questions and trying to find out what people's digital capability is, but I feel like a lot of these tools don't really complete the whole circle. So I like that on your site you've actually provided them with some links to the actual tools or platforms that are relevant to your institution, and that you are sort of saying maybe this is our core technology that you should be using, these are recognised tools, or these are recommended tools. And I think that to me is the end result that we're trying to get to, or training or workshops or clinics that they can attend to, you know, fill those gaps that are found from answering those questions. And what I'd really like to see is a platform that can deliver that in a way that it means they can come back to that site over and over again, so it becomes a reference tool rather than just filling in the survey once and sort of, you know, just having answered the questions and then seeing a few suggestions, but something that they can keep referring back to, that would be maintained and that would be really nicely delivered in a visual way. And I think that's where we're trying to think of a way that's scalable, so that it draws all of those different areas together, because and certainly in our institution we've got people who are doing things in all different areas. So we've got library delivering workshops or providing training, we've got our learning and development teams, and we've got IT services, and we've got talent development centre, and people don't know where to go. So having a platform or a delivery mechanism where people can come and see maybe a role that's similar to theirs, and these are the things that they should be looking at and should be exploring, I think that is what closes the gap, and that's what I'd really like to see a bit more of.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. We certainly had an issue up until this last year about people not knowing exactly where to go for things. So we had the kind of IT sort of training. We had some labby things. We had some stuff from HR. We had things from the TEL team. We had a whole range of things. So when we first did the Digital U, that was one of the key things, that was going to be the place people went to. That was the brand that people knew. So no matter who was running it, people would come through that kind of brand. And we did begin to advertise some of the training in the kind of student record system. And as of last week, I had a conversation with people from our marketing department who wanted to try and get the company who provide our intranet in to do some more staff training, because that's been picked up as a thing that people don't know how to use the intranet very well. And they wanted to make sure that came under the Digital U banner. So although we won't, as a kind of digital learning project team, won't run those things, we're trying to facilitate the fact that people go to one place and we'll be the sort of the conduit for people to come into it and then go out to that various bits of training done by other people. So I think you're right, people want one identity, one place to go, and to try and kind of get that content. One kind of quick question for you. The All Aboard tool was very different in being quite graphical and kind of little pop-up things. How do people feel that is as opposed to the more linear kind of, you know, question, sort of flat question things? Steve?
Hi there. Yeah, we worked on this together, and we really liked the way that once you clicked on the sort of basic description, you got the pop-up with the explanation, and you could look at it and go, oh, no, maybe I'm not quite there, or actually I can do that. I've been doing that for years, and that's quite easy to me. Maybe I can think about trying the next harder level and seeing if I can do that one. And I thought that was I think we both thought that was a really nice sort of navigation aid and sort of confirmation aid going through. Yeah,
yes, I do quite like the way that they do some graphical. Sorry.
The flip side to that as well is that you might just click on something and go, oh yeah, I can do it, and then maybe not go to the higher level. Yeah. As well, so you can whiz through the survey.
Yes.
You don't have the benefit of comparison, do you?
Yeah.
You know what you know, but you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But having said that, I still liked it. I mean, yeah, but it's maybe a downside.
Yeah, I think it wasn't immediately obvious that once you clicked on your sort of first choice and saw it, you could still go back and change your mind and sort of visit them all. So maybe, you know, I don't know, maybe a way of, I don't know, graphically illustrating that. I don't know, could help.
Okay, I think we're pretty much up time-wise. I'll put the Padlet link up there. So anyone wanted to add any more kind of comments or thoughts, you know, please do make that available, because that's going to be linked into the conference site afterwards. So again, you know, put your comments on there. So I hope you found it useful. I hope I've given you some ideas of some of the tools that might be available. But quite happy to have a chat with anybody during the next 2 days about anything to do with our tools or any ideas you have how we can make it even better. So, okay, thank you very much.